Hi, everyone. Welcome back into Primetime TV Show. I'm one of your hosts, Barbara Marville Kelly. With me is my husband, Dennis Kelly. We are back by popular demand by ourselves and those of you that watch us on a weekly basis. And I tell you, today's going to be a very, very interesting show because it's all about love and it's all about relationships. I don't know about you, but there's a lot of people out there that not only are having some challenges with the pandemic and the vaccine and wondering what's going on and looking for work and losing their businesses. And needless to say, it affects our relationships. So do we have all the answers for you today? Probably not. But we might have a few tools in our toolbox that may assist you in making a difference. And if only one life out there it makes a difference with, we're happy to have succeeded. And then if you can help us spread, that'll be even better. So I'm going to go ahead and turn over to my husband and say hello.
Hello to you.
And Merry Christmas.
Same to you.
We're all decked out in red, and red is a power color too. It's a symbol of strength, which I think we have a lot of strength, don't you?
Well, we have unlimited strength, just deciding how you're going to use it.
You know, that's a very good point. Now, you always come up with something new. After all these years, I thought I had heard it all. I thought I knew it all from my husband. And I'll tell you, I thank you for doing that, for bringing up something new that we maybe haven't talked about. But really, the strength is in how we perceive our strength and how we choose to use it. Okay, off the cuff, before we get started, how do you choose to use the strength that you have?
How did I choose to use it? Well, to help people in distress, to share the knowledge, to be able to fortify health and fitness in my own body so I'm worthy of being able to show other people what I'm doing. When I first got into this world in my first 20 years, 25, 30 years, I was fixing me. And it was all me. When I got into martial arts, I won trophies, won awards. It was all for me. But you know, when I made the transition of it's more enjoyable to help other people once you help yourself, but that is the key.
You know what? There's a lot of truth to that. And that's where we are today. And that's why we're here with WeBeam TV on prime time on a Facebook page, or you can go to webeamtv.com to watch it. Share that with your friends, neighbors, relatives. We don't care. We're global. We are international here in this wonderful professional studio right in Port Richey, Florida. So we're always pleased to come in, and we're approaching 200 episodes in prime time. And we're going to change things up a little bit next year, but today we're going to give you a little sneak peek on a new you breakthrough. And I know that sounds kind of like redundant after we have an old year coming in with a new year. What do we want to do as far as setting any kind of New Year's resolutions? How many of us fail to meet those expectations? And so we're here to actually give a little bit of a new spin on a new you breakthrough. You've heard us talk a little bit about that, but this is truly some crazy times. And if we don't make some changes, and I mean, we're certified life coaches. Even we are like a plumber with leaky pipes from time to time. Even we have to up the ante in our knowledge and going back to what has really worked solidly for us. And that's what we're here to share with you. Next year, we're going to be having additional professionals coming on with a psychologist and a doctor from India who we have been working with that is going to help us share some of that professional knowledge as well because it matches our enthusiasm. Our main enthusiasm is living a heart-empowered life. And what we mean by that is over the last 20 years, we've been doing it. Before that, we've been sort of living from the gut, you know, that good old gut feeling. And today, we decided after listening to some of the news, hearing what's happening to relationships out there, and in fact, we have friends that have gone through some very challenging, tough times with their relationships and not knowing which way to go. So what we're going to share today as a sneak peek to our new You Breakthrough series are some of the tool sets that we have and the coping skills that we have had going through life with almost 23 years in our pockets together. 20 married and then 3 years before that. And it works. Does it work all the time? if we follow the skill sets. Right there, Mr. Kelly?
Absolutely, Mrs. Kelly.
So, what we're going to talk about in relationships was one of the first things that I learned from my husband when he was doing, even before he met me, singles seminars and relationship seminars, and you called it Singles and Singles Again, right?
Right, that was it.
Now, why did you call it Singles and Singles Again?
Well, because everybody's going to be single at some point. Very few people die together as a couple. So when singles, because you had a spouse or a wife or whatever, and they no longer are in your world, then you see that poses a whole different situation. It's being able to handle that situation when you have a separation of people, so that it doesn't get ugly. And Christmas time is the time that there are more people happy and more people sad than any other time. Because you have the extremes. Extremely sometimes depressed because people that you loved and shared Christmas with are no longer with you, whatever reason. So that's the time that you really need the skills to be able to cough up the right answers. And the right answers are what you feel from your heart.
That's very well said. It is. And I had a father-in-law at one time, this was before I was with you, with my kid's dad, and he would get so depressed every Christmas. It would never fail, and it was kind of like his MO. His family would tell me that he would just go down that bunny hole and feel very depressed. And, there's a lot going on out there in the world with relationships, and that's why we decided to talk about relationships and how maybe just one simple point might help you, and what to maybe look for if your relationship could be on its way into trouble, or if it can be salvaged, things resolved. I mean, how many, have we ever been under a pandemic before? I get tired of talking about that, but it's a real thing that we are pushing through, and we can push through, and we will push through. And there are many of us doing that. It maybe takes a little bit of extra work, a little bit of extra dedication and commitment and accountability, but as long as we can do that, we will push through that. So as long as we have our health and we have love and we have a family that we appreciate and we can get into gratitude, it's all possible. You agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very good point. Several points.
Exactly, exactly. We were talking about it on the way up here and bringing up some points that we're going to bring up to you as far as what happens in relationships and why do they go down that bunny rabbit hole, as I call it, and what is the trigger? What can trigger? Is it because we think that we're looking for somebody that can make us happy? And what if we think they aren't making us happy? Then what? What is your thought? What is your answer to that? I'd love to hear it. In fact, you can send me a little text, a message, a private message if you want. I'd love to address that, but we're going to address all of these points that I'm bringing up as well. We're going to be talking about how to access love. That sounds pretty easy to do, but what if you're in a heated argument or a heated debate? Do you realize what happens to the body? When that happens, you lower your frequency level. And as my husband says, who's licensed through Heart Math Institute, has all the validation behind the science of the heart and what happens when we're in a heated discussion and we cannot balance and manage our emotions at that time. Is that the best time to make a decision?
No, that's the worst time. And most people make decisions when they're upset, or a lot of decisions when you're stressed out, I should say. It's even more evident that people are going to have a bad result. Anytime you associate a situation where it makes you feel good or makes you feel bad, don't try to make that decision when you're upset. Einstein said that, how he put it, he said that don't try to make any decisions when you're in that state of consciousness that is negative. You want to wait till you're positive to make a decision. And most people, or a good number of people, make decisions on that when they're unhappy and they feel they're expressing themselves, but the other person, in most cases, a lot of cases, take that as a threat. So that's why when you make a decision to respond to stress, a stressful situation, Don't show your anger, don't show your stressness. Try to think of pleasant things and realize that any decision made when you're stressed out is going to be a bad decision. Bad. When you go to the heart, call upon good, beautiful feelings, appreciation, and abundance of love, then what happens is the good things, good decisions are made because our heart knows what's good, but our head messes us up. There's a brain in the head and a brain in the heart. And the key thing is when you make a decision, you make them from the brain and the heart.
And so I just asked that question about how to access love, and you kind of explained that a little bit as far as having that love feeling and the abundance, because it truly does raise your frequency level. And when you raise the frequency level, you get out of your own way, and you're able to rationalize much more, excuse me, than when you're in a low frequency level. And if you've watched our shows in the past, we're always on our soapbox talking about these concepts because they've been backed by science, by Heart Math Institute, and we walk this talk. And do we ever fall off, kind of off a little bit? Sometimes we're out of alignment, but then when we remind ourselves of our coping skills and those skill sets that we've learned over the years, it really does become habit. So we can get back on that balanced level of managing our emotions pretty quickly because it has become a habit. And when you develop that habit, it's much easier to access that habit in a good way and access the love frequency, because it's the love frequency that will keep you out of trouble and keep you out of the arguing and the you've got to win this debate and all those kinds of things that end up destroying marriages and destroying relationships. And it's not just in a personal relationship, is it, hon? It's in business relationships as well. So if you have had some lack of camaraderie in your business relationship, and maybe you've been thinking about things that you can do and you don't know what to do, stay with us and we'll help you with that. And of course, we're always available for consultations, and we'd be happy to talk with you. And even in a group, if you have a company that you would like to have a better idea for how to run your business for 2021, we may be able to help you. So always keep that in mind. Let's go back to something that we were talking about in the car that is huge. It's huge when we are seeking out a relationship, or we have found a relationship, or maybe we are getting out of a relationship. There is one thing that can make a major difference in your life in a relationship. One word: codependency.
Oh yeah, that word.
Codependency. I have to ask you, do you feel that your happiness depends on how others treat you? Think about that for a minute. You may not be able to answer that right now, or maybe you can. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you feel like maybe this person might not be right for you because they're not making you happy? Well, I'm going to turn this question over to the pro, and I'm going to let you answer about codependency. And then I'm going to give my my true confession on who I'm codependent on, and I'm okay with it.
Oh, that'll be pretty good.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Why do people think that they'll be happy when they find someone to make them happy?
Well, that is one of the biggest fallacies. That's about anything. I'll be happy when I get this. It doesn't even have to be a relationship. That is one of the biggest lies in the world. You should be happy in spite of things, not because of things. And that's hard to do. It's easy for me to say that. It's hard to do. But it's like anything else. It takes practice. We're not born with a manual.
That's true.
The schooling system, obviously, there's a lot of kinks. I'm not even going to go there.
No, don't.
But there's a lot of kinks in the armor there. And then, of course, the parenting. They're not taking the time with your child or children to be able to build a family as far as doing things together, rather than doing things apart all the time. It's good to have a good balance. And I tell you, there's four things, four expressions that really tell it all. They're called the four things of happiness that you develop on your own and learn to control. Number one is in a relationship, one of the first things that leads down the wrong path is where you have resistance. Resistance. And resistance is when you're resisting against another person's desires or wishes. Then you start resisting. And then that event, if that's not taken care of, then you go into resentment. Resenting the fact that they're not making you feel good. And that resenting is obviously going down the wrong path. And then one of the big key things is resentment comes from the resistance and resentment. Rejection comes next. That's what I meant to say. Rejection. Once you get the resistance forming and the resentment, then rejection takes place, and from rejection comes repression, where you don't even communicate, you don't even try, you don't even speak to each other, very little, and if it is, it's very condescending. So that's where you go to the 4 steps, and the key is try to go to no further than step number 2, because when you get rejection and when you get repression, at that point it's much more difficult to make that relationship successful and binding and full of love. It takes work, but that work is a pleasure. Like if I gave you a shovel of the gold mine, that's work, but look what you're getting from the results. A good life with that wonderful person you love so very much.
So, you know, we're in changing times, and changing times can cause changing relationships and significant changes in relationships if we don't have some sort of coping skills even before that. Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah, and I feel if instead of us depending on the other person to make us happy, just work on helping get your mate happy. Another, shore them up, stand behind them when there's decisions to be made.
Yes.
That
yes.
all takes work, but the work is well worth it.
Yeah.
By no means should you make a decision when you're very stressed out. Just cool it. Just go off on a trip or something, but get away, or if that's not the case, just relax, meditate, and there's so many other things you can do.
There are. Before we learned about heart math and how to live a heart-centered life, we had no idea. We sought out the answers for ourselves. Actually, both of us separately. And then when we became an item 23 years ago, it was interesting how our enthusiasm matched one another's. And so we've been going down this path of these learned skill sets that we automatically go to, automatically. But before that, we didn't have a clue. And so I guess, I can't remember way back then before I met you, but you know, the average person out there that has not been able to delve into learning the coping skills for building a relationship and staying in a relationship and overcoming the situations that are upon us, like today in a pandemic, and trying to survive, keep businesses open, keep our kids in school. I mean, it's like one thing right after another that we're faced with coping. We are so blessed having, you know, our license with Heart Math Institute and all the years that you studied going into the mountains with them and learning the science behind what happens to the body, to the mind, the spirit, when the frequency is lowered. And you can actually feel it in your body. Maybe your blood pressure goes up, you start trembling or shaking, and you just want to explode. How many can raise your hand out there? There's been those times for me. Believe me when I tell you that. And the thing is that since we have been practicing these skills, it becomes a whole lot easier. And if you just take a look at what's happening in your lifestyle today, if you're going to do that when you have your balanced emotions, when you're feeling good. Because when you look back on your life, it may be better than what you might think it is when you're in a lowered frequency. You'll be able to have that gratitude and be more thankful for what you do have. And if you have your health, you have your wealth. If you have your health, you have your wealth, because it's much easier to develop those skill sets. And that is one of the first things you'll hear us shamelessly talk about, is having our health. because it's much more challenging if you don't have your health and you've got health issues on top of global world and volatile issues. Oh, I forgot one minor thing. Politics. Anybody out there want to talk about politics? Not here. So we've got all these things out there. This person doesn't know what this person's doing, and we can't understand this, that, or the other thing. So we just kind of shoot through under the radar and do our own thing, living our heart-filled life, living with our family and appreciating our family and our friends, appreciating the fact that we have this platform with WeBeam TV to be able to push right through that camera some of the skill sets that we've learned over the years. And we hope that you will at least take one thing that we can help you with today and then just pay it forward, pass it on. I want to mention something that I haven't said in a long time. You know, when we talk about taking an assessment of our lives. And, you know, having been in TV for so many years, I sort of kind of do a metaphor. And remember when I came up with the lights, camera, action?
Yes.
In my coaching program. So lights, camera, action, what are you going to think? It's TV, right? Well, in a sense, it could be, because when you're involved, like I had been and my husband had been in entertainment and TV and all of that, believe me, I had to take a look at myself through my own metaphor that I came up with, I think from the Holy Spirit, one of those little messages at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I go, okay, well, just give me the next clue on how you want me to share this with people. So that didn't happen for a little while, but when it did, this is what it came up with. Lights, camera, action. So take a look at lights. We have bright lights here in the studio. Now, this is kind of a metaphor. You can write this down if you like, or watch the show again. But if you take the lights and shine the lights on the situation that you're in, or the significant person, and that person could even be you, and just take a look with those lights, and then what I want you to do is look as if you're looking through the camera, through a camera lens. HD, high definition focus on how to make the situation more clear and resolvable. Make sense so far? Lights, camera, what's the next one? The A word, action. What steps or coping skills can you come up with? And then take action. That may sound pretty simple to do, and maybe it is for some of us, maybe it isn't. But I literally had to do this, maybe not in these many words, when I started at the Home Shopping Network as a scared little rabbit, never having done that ever before. I had to look at myself and see what I saw in myself and what I had to offer the public. And that's the honest to God's truth. And I didn't realize at that time that this was part of a coaching program that was going to be coming later on. And so here we are. Back on TV, we're approaching 200 episodes here on prime time, and between my husband and I, we have a ball sharing this with everyone. You remember when we talked? I haven't talked about the lights, camera, action in a while.
Yeah, it's true.
But it works, and you taught me about metaphors.
Yeah, Jesus used to teach with metaphors. Metaphors are so powerful, especially when they properly relate to the situation, because they give people a good picture. For example, what is the main purpose of a relationship? What is the main purpose of a relationship?
To grow.
If you can answer that question, you're well on your way to really helping that relationship and being able to keep that relationship going and strong. The main purpose of a relationship is growth. Growth by growing together. If one person in the relationship, whether it be married or going with each other, single, the main purpose of relationship in each person should keep growing. The purpose is to keep your lesson, or your marriage or your dependency at a level where you don't have to depend on the other person to make you happy. So the key thing, the main purpose of relationship is for growth. If one person is not growing, the relationship is going to have a problem. One person is growing, one person isn't growing. Either one, if you don't grow, the marriage gets very dull. So that is one of the most important advices I can give you in growth, is the main purpose is to grow with that relationship. each person needs to improve their awareness, their intelligence, through reading, through watching things, movies or things on positive thinking, trying to really increase your strength on the feeling part of being positive.
That's right. That's right. That is so right. And it's not easy to do, especially when people are trying to survive. They're having money issues, financial issues, kid issues, school issues. I mean, it's coming from all directions. We get that. We totally understand that. Because we have children that are going through that. And I had a little taste of it homeschooling my grandson, which was a wonderful experience for me back in over the last months that we had. I think it was about 3 or 4 months that we homeschooled my little JD. And as I look back, it was a wonderful experience because we bonded even deeper with our relationship as me as a grandparent and him as the grandson. And it's no different with relationships because it's almost like we have to take our temperature again when it comes to a relationship and just see where we're at. It's like a barometer, right?
Right.
And taking a look, and I always think when I was doing this lights, camera, action thingy, I was looking at myself through that camera lens right there that you're looking at and that I'm looking at right this very minute. And I thought, okay, I was told by my friend Tina Berry to go out and be yourself on TV. And I've done that ever since 1992. And I looked through that camera lens at myself, literally because we have a TV monitor. And it wasn't all that about, makeup and hair, although it's nice. It's what's inside here and how you can portray what you're feeling and how you can service the person on the other side of that camera. And it was product driven. And I tell you, I used my whole entire mind, body, spirit concept on how to sell a computer. And I didn't know the darn thing about it, but I studied about it, and this was way back in the day before we had the technology, and some of the best ways to communicate was through a computer to where you could save long distance phone calls to your loving friends and loving relatives out of state and things like that. And that's how I sold computers and did very well at it because I sold from the heart. And our show is really no different. We're not selling you anything. We're trying to share with you what's in our toolboxes because we want to give back somehow. And at the end of our show, we're going to talk about how next year we're going to be giving back as well. I know my husband is really excited about this because it will be an instant replay from many years ago that we did together, and it will involve you if you're interested, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But I'm going back to these concepts and talking about the 4 R's in relationships. That's really scary. How does someone, you can answer this if you like, hon, how do you know when you're in the first word, which is resistance?
Well,
Is there pushback? Is there arguing?
You might
Is that
say
where that starts?
There's several ways you can describe that. But basically, they're doing something that makes you feel uncomfortable, and it seems like when you make suggestions about it, they don't respond to it. In other words, everyone has feelings of discomfort. Everyone has moments where they feel that their mate is not doing the right thing, and they start feeling that resistance that leads to other things. And it's easy to determine what to do. Just don't make any decisions to try to correct that unless that you're in that frequency that you feel that they are feeling good too. In other words, the way you present it, if your mate is doing something where it's making you feel resistance and resentment starts coming in, you need to get to work on correcting that. Do whatever you need to do within reason to stop that. You don't want it to get into rejection, because then that's where they did this because they didn't want me to be with them, and I feel so lonely that my mate goes out and doesn't take me with him or her. I mean, there's so many stupid things that you can say about that, but the key thing is you want to stop it before it gets to rejection.
I just thought of that word that you brought up because I asked you on the way over here. I said, give me one word that is critical? If we were to leave the planet today, what would be that one word that is critical? Do you remember? There's a T word. Trust.
Oh, you.
Trust.
Yes,
Trust. That one word is so key because it spreads out throughout everything we do in life, right? Is trust.
Yeah, it's one of the things that makes the big difference. And most people don't trust most people.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you don't trust in a marriage or relationship, you don't love that person. You have to trust them to love them. And if they do something to break that love, that's not your responsibility, it's not your fault in most cases. Because once you trust somebody, and if they accept that trust, usually that relationship grows together.
Yes, and
goes together.
And we talked about that in when it comes to our wedding vows. And we talked about what we said. We wrote our own wedding vows and kept pretty much to the good old-fashioned traditional scripting of the wedding vows, but we added even more into that. And raising that frequency level, again, you will never ever make a wrong decision if you make it from your heart. And the reason why we talk about the frequency level is because that's what happens to the body when you get into negative emotion. It goes down. And that's how heated debates happen with loved ones, people that you really love and adore and care for. And that's why we're here on our soapbox today to share that with you moving forward. We're going to have a new year coming around the corner, and if we can help share some of these things with you and you can sort of identify where you're at. You may not be in anywhere near any of this, but I would have a hard time believing that every single one of you, if not you, there's a family member, there's a friend, there's someone out there that would love to know more about this to help identify where we need to be and where we need to go if we're going to improve our relationships. Because when we improve our relationships, we grow. Isn't that what you said? The main purpose is in a relationship is to grow. Together. And if we're not growing together, then what is the purpose?
Now, another part where growth is so important is when you do break up, if you have to break up or lose your spouse, and you're looking for someone new, the key thing is at first stop looking. Just get on working on you. Take 10 points and write down on a piece of paper those 10 points, and each point being something that you would like to see in a person. Write those 10 points down and really think about that. Picture that person in your mind that you would like to meet or that you'd like to be with. But the key thing is once you find that person, or they find you, like Barbara found me. That's a joke, family joke. That's a whole nother story.
That's because I was wanting to get healthy again, and I came strutting into the gym, and there you were, puffing your chest up. I'm just speaking the truth. But anyway, getting back to that, that's really good. And we didn't even talk about talking if you're single. And we're, like you said, singles and singles again. My husband used to do all kinds of relationships on that, with seminars and workshops. And I love that because, yeah, you're right. We're all going to be single at some time or another, always. So if you are thinking about seeking out a partner, that's a great idea, is to put down a list of what you're looking for, what you're not looking for. You'd be surprised. And we always say, what you think about, you bring about. Honestly, I had not been thinking about my relationship here, or even thinking about manifesting a relationship of what I want or what I don't want. I just never even went there because I was pretty much done after Broken Heart. And then here he comes along. If I wrote a mail order list to God, that's what I got. I always loved the martial arts. Always loved to dance, always loved to speak to my partner in a way that we could have deep conversations and get down to earth. And that's what I have. That's what we have in our relationship. And there's a balance of emotions there that I can't believe some of the crazy things that we've gone through. For those of you that know us, you know what we've gone through. And it's interesting because we had a doctor tell us that if somebody was to ask our friends or members in the community, you know we are in love. You know that we have a loving relationship. And we want to see that for others out there, because love is the key. Love is the answer. And no matter what you are going through, if you are loving one another and in love with one another, that is the best foundation ever. Ever.
Absolutely. Very well said.
Yeah, it's the best foundation ever. So let's see, where else? Where else did we want to talk about this? Raising the frequency level and stress. Please, please, please do whatever you can do to reduce your stress. Whether it's, I start out in the morning with prayer and my devotionals from my Jesus Always book. You can get that on Amazon. It's like $12, $13. I highly recommend it. I give it as gifts to my friends and my family. It will make a difference in your life. If you're a believer out there, this book is actually written as if it's written exactly just for you. And just take that time for yourself. I've learned myself, and it took me many years, being a single mom for a lot of years and being the doer of all things, repairs, you name it, I did that. But it's taken time for me to learn how to calm myself, and I can do it in a snapshot, real quick. But it's taken time to learn that, and more than ever, so many of us have been under lockdown or partial lockdown or whatever. There's plenty of time to do some meditation, or go out and play an instrument in a separate room. Do something that makes you happy. You know what makes me happy? When I can be creative. When I can add to the books that I've been trying to write. That's on my do list. That is definitely on my bucket list. And I love to dance. Even if we're just dancing at home and we're not even out with our friends dancing, and different things that are creative. Or writing poetry. Playing with my dogs, and different things that raises that immune system, and it will. Oh, my family, when I'm with my family, ask my husband, I am on a high for days and days afterwards, because it automatically increases your frequency level. It gives you balance of your emotions. And you can take on each day with a different perspective. Oh, I almost forgot, before we end our show, we've got less than 20 minutes remaining. Let's talk about another big word. You know, my husband always says that words are powerful.
Amen.
They are very powerful. And the one word that you've taught me, a lot of these words with a whole different perspective that I've ever had before, perception. Perception. I'm going to let you get up on your soapbox and talk about perception.
Well, one of the biggest or best explanations of stress that I've heard, and that came from heart math when I was training up there in the mountains, that stress is when our perception of life's events does not meet up with our expectations, and we fail to manage the results. When our life's events do not meet up to our expectations, and we end up failing, we end up being able to manage the results. And it's a simple way of explaining it. But the key thing is, are you managing your life or somebody else managing your life?
That's
you
right.
want to be the director in your orchestra, director in your movie. You be the director. And then let the other people be the participants. But what happens is everybody seems to have a director that gives them direction. Could be a spouse, could be a boyfriend, girlfriend, could be anything like that. And the key thing is, you want to be your director, and you direct your movie, your life, how you want it to turn out, not based on what other people say. One of the biggest laws in physics, as far as the physics of human nature, is that when you make a decision, you don't want to make a decision and then if it doesn't go right, blame it on someone else. Because then that lowers your resistance, I should say raises your tension and stress that you don't need. And that can affect your growing together. So going together, grow together.
That's right. That's right. You know, I love that. I'm glad that you went into that little spiel about what stress actually is. And the perception of stress. There are so many perceptions out there. You can say the same thing one way and change your tone of voice another way, and there will be two misperceptions.
Well, give you a little example. If you're, say, picture yourself in Disney World, what's it called, the roller coaster. There's a name for it. So anyway, at Disney World they have this big roller coaster, or had, and you can have two people sitting in the same seat. One person loves to go on a roller coaster. The other person never has and is scared stiff. Well, what happens is the person that loves to go on the roller coaster, they get a lot of good hormones and chemicals in the body because they're excited, all right? And the person that can't stand it, they reduce to a hormone called interleukin-2, which is greatest stress hormone could be possible without dying. So sometimes people do die in certain circumstances like that, but it's because of the interleukin-2, which is a stress hormone that does a lot of damage, along with the other hormones like cortisol and adrenaline and so on. The good hormones are the catecholamines, the ones that make you feel sensual, that makes you feel alive. And those things are ways that you need to go about working on making those things easy so you can do it in your subconscious mind.
That was very well said. You went even beyond what I
that's
expected.
my nature.
I know. I know. Go big or stay home, right?
That's right. Don't mess around.
Well, you did. And I hope this is all making some sense to you, because we try not to be too technical, and you were going into those fancy words that you just said. What was it?
Catecholamines.
Wow. And that's the good stuff?
Those are the good guys.
Yeah, the good guys. That's what we want in our veins. That's what we want in our bodies. But I can understand. I would be the one in total fright. That's because, first of all, I don't like heights. Must have been something having to do with a past life.
Yeah, and the bad ones are cortisol.
Yeah.
Cortisol you have in your system. You need it, but only at a very minimal level. And the cortisol is what I call the death sentence. Is when you are really stressed out every day, then it's like acid dripping in the system.
Okay, so let's recap here, because we're going to be talking about something that we're working on for next year, and we're very excited to bring out a program next year that could help you, your loved ones, your family, anyone that will listen to us. But I do want to thank you for bringing all that you did to the show today, because this is how we live our lives, and stress is a big one. And we've been talking about how to reduce stress ever since we started doing those shows. So to recap, the bottom line is once that we can understand what stress does to the body, and once we can understand how we can combat stress and balance and manage our emotions, then when we are faced with a situation with not just a loved one in a personal relationship, but in a business relationship as well, it all works the same way. And so that's why we always like to talk about HeartMath Institute validating what we say here. It's not like we just choose things from out of the sky or pick off of an invisible tree. Let's talk about this. These things really do work, and you can always look up HeartMath Institute and sign up for their newsletter. You can always go to our websites, either barbaramarville.com or dennis-kelly.com, and right on the front page is the HeartMath Experience. And if you go to that link, you will see an offer that you cannot resist on how to learn how to manage your emotions. And I know that it was $29.95 at one point, but during the pandemic, HeartMath gave a reprieve on that and offered it at no cost, and I would highly recommend that to anyone out there. Plus, if you go to barbaramarville.com, you'll be able to see my classic video on there called 1 Million Hearts. And it's a beautiful video with an exercise on what you can do on a daily business day or a daily personal day to send out to the planet. It's down there somewhere, and there it is. Right there is the HeartMath Experience, And then my 1 Million Hearts is on there as well, and you can watch the video. It's a feel-good video, it really is. It will make your heart sing. But I do want to move along, and I want to thank you guys for joining us. But next year, we've been working on this now for a good little while, is because we are so strong about reducing stress. One of the things that my husband has been doing for many years. How long have you been certifying Tai Chi and Qigong instructors?
Going on 40 years.
Going on 40 years.
Probably more than that.
So there's a little bit of experience there as far as certifying professional Tai Chi instructors. And we have a team of instructors and several that are really stepping up to the plate to help us further this mission. So after the first of the year, we're going to be having something special for anyone that is interested in either changing a career, developing a new career. If you're out of work and you are a growth-seeking individual, that will not only help you with managing your own stress, but the stress of your family, friends, kids, grandkids, but you can also give back by teaching others as well. Now, we've had to adjust our sales during the pandemic, and quite honestly, my husband lost all of his classes, every single one of them, due to the pandemic. So, where there's a will, there's a way. I know many of you are tired of Zoom, but I will say this, there's a lot to be said for it because you can do a whole lot with Zoom. And that's one way we bring guests in here to the studio is through Zoom. It's how we've been able to teach on Zoom from time to time. So next year we're going to have a program to get anybody started, very, very low cost for your first level, and it's just going to be a great way for you to learn really a lot of what we teach and coach on, doing workshops and seminars. My husband wrote this book, which changed my life. 1996, I was the guinea pig, right?
You sure was.
I was the guinea pig for the 6 Steps to the Fountain of Youth. Here I am on the back, right here, with my short hair when I was working for HSN. And this, honestly, I'm not trying to sell you on this because we don't have a lot of them left. The next book that's going to be coming out is Champion the Champion Within. And we're actually working on having some good names in there, high-powered doctors and people of influence that will be sharing their spin in Champion the Champion Within. It's going to really be a great book, and hopefully we'll be able to get that published next year. We're still working on some of the stories that we're living right now. But if you're interested and you want to contact either one of us, you can go to our websites, or you can simply private message us on Facebook. Become a Facebook friend. If you're not there yet, just send me a little note on maybe you've seen the show and things of that nature. Let's talk about what we are doing and why you're doing this and why you feel it's so very, very important. Master Kelly, why do you think this is so important for us to share the story and share the program?
Because we have a big responsibility to our loved ones. Mm-hmm. The best gift you can give someone is a wonderful, wonderful time of handling stress and so on. Best gift of someone, be a good example. The key thing is there's a responsibility of a parent or a loved one that where you want to really be able to capture that feeling. You want to be able to make them proud of you through doing good things for people, because what you do for someone is better than what you get from someone, in many ways, as far as the hormones.
That is so true. That is so very true.
Did you know that if you see somebody doing an act of kindness to another person, that person that gets the act of kindness, their hormones raised, their good hormones, guess what? The people watching, just watching an act of goodness actually have raised hormones, positive hormones to help us get healthy. So watch a lot of people helping a lot of people. And if you can't find anybody, then start doing it yourself.
Boy, isn't that the truth? I love doing that. Even with strangers. I talk to strangers.
I know. She walks a room and the room lights up. It's unbelievable.
I can't help myself because you feel that energy. That's the other thing that we've learned from Heart Math. When you're in a room or you attend an event or someone else attends an event that you're at, And you can actually feel their vibrations, their frequency. Is it 12 feet away?
As much as 12 feet away with the sophisticated machines we have that only get a limited amount. The theory is it goes unlimited, goes to eternity.
That's right, that's right.
Every thought, every action is recorded and always there, regardless whether we're physically here on Earth or not.
And you know, I always go back to HeartMath and so many different experiments that they've done, and they also do this thing called global coherence, where they do a global prayer room, and you can actually see it on the screen when you sign up for it. And I forget when the next one is, but I usually participate, where everybody is praying at the same time, and it's just so beautiful. But one thing that I want to share with you, which I found very fascinating, that I didn't find out until after 9/11 hit, but I found out that there were modules that HeartMath Institute placed around Mother Earth, and that those modules were measuring the frequency of the planet, correct?
Right.
Change my verbiage if you need to, because I don't know the exact HeartMath words, so I'm using my own. And what happened? They were measuring the energy of what was about to happen before it happened with 9/11.
Yeah.
Wasn't that correct?
Yeah, and it's astounding. Scientists all over the world were amazed. They couldn't explain it. But we at HeartMath would know what it is.
Well, that's because, real quickly, we have only 5 minutes, but we can say a lot in that 5 minutes. When you went to become certified at HeartMath, they hooked you up, and they hooked people up that were participating to become certified. And they showed the proof on the screen that the heart knows before the brain does when something's going to happen, right?
Yes.
What was one of the examples, real quick?
Well, for example, if you're ready to get on a plane and you have this gut feeling, oh, I better not, and then you find out the plane crashes. That is an isolated situation, but it's not as isolated as you would think. The key thing is they found out that the heart responds a nanosecond before it is flashed up on the screen. When everybody's hooked up to all the biofeedback equipment and everything, they wanted to see whether the head is faster at an emotion, recognizing motion, or the brain. And they would show things on the screen to stimulate both. The brain was lagging behind the heart. What would happen, the picture would come up on the screen before the biorhythm machines would register before the picture went up on the screen. So the heart knew for a nanosecond what was going to happen. Isn't that amazing? Because you can imagine that's the only way we record, but I'm sure that goes deeper than that, where we don't have the ability yet to record things that were even quicker recognized that were going to happen.
That's so amazing, and I was just taken in by that knowledge.
It blew my mind.
And that we didn't learn that until way after 9/11 happened. So I guess the bottom line is that your heart knows before your head. So listen to your heart each and every time. And I'll tell you, when I had a little challenge in the beginning trying to figure out, well, is it my head or my heart? And it really was a challenge for me, because I thought I was making a decision from the heart, and I sure found out real fast that it was a head decision, because it did not go the way I thought it was supposed to go. Or maybe it was a God thing, who knows. But living that heart-centered life now, it comes very, very easily. I know in a nanosecond, is this a heart decision or it's a head decision? And I'll tell you, it saves a whole lot of time by sitting and worrying. We don't worry. We might get concerned about something, but we don't sit and worry, because it's a waste of time, isn't it?
Right, and you know that there is a word that actually shows how would I say it? In the martial arts, when we're fighting in the ring, at certain times with a very well-trained person, that you will know what your opponent's going to do before they do it. It's called inclusion.
Oh, yes.
It's called inclusion. You know that person is going to do a roundhouse kick to the head before the foot lifts off the ground. Now that takes a lot of training, a lot of really thinking of this as a possibility, and it is possible. Now, it's hard to use on a long-range thing because we haven't, as humans, developed that yet, but it's going in that direction where you'll be able to read minds a lot sooner than what I just mentioned.
Yeah, reading minds through your heart.
That's it.
That is fascinating. It truly is.
I can feel a negative person 10 feet away.
Oh,
they don't even have to speak.
Absolutely.
That's because they developed that ability.
Yes.
Now, I can't tell fortunes, and I can't predict the future, but I know when this happens, whether it is for a trying moment or not, that your heart has a way of giving you a clue before it happens.
Sure, and we used to do that.
That's a gut feeling.
That's
God talking to us.
It is God talking to us.
That's right.
It's that gut feeling that you can't get out of your mind.
Haven't you ever had a gut feeling
Yep.
that I better not do this, and you
Yep.
do it, and it turns out bad?
Yep.
Then you have another one where I better do this because I got this gut feeling, and it turns out good.
I know.
It's all in the mind and the heart of the person that's practicing.
That is
the
very true.
practitioner.
And that is truly one of our secret skills that we share all the time now. And when you do it, it works. And again, go to my website, barbaramarvel.com, and click onto the 1 Million Hearts video so that you can actually see an exercise that you can do, and you can push the love out to people on the planet, and you can push that love out to even those that aren't on the planet anymore. And when you stop and take a moment just to reflect on your loved ones and just the word love, it can change your frequency and possibly change your life once you develop these skill sets. We'll be sharing more about that. Get a hold of us if you want to take a look at our program in advance that's coming out next year, because we can help you with that and so much more. We are very blessed to be here as we wind down 2020 and keep our 2020 vision on 2021. It's going to be a great year. We've already started. Thank you, and God bless each of you.